Before you start your web quest, let's talk about the historical context of the 1920s. The United States was a very different place before World War I. Certain societal shifts after the war brought about sweeping changes in social policy. U.S. history expert Nicholas Woodman explains what caused some of these changes and how they set the stage for the Roaring Twenties.
So World War One obviously was a time to restart the American economy. So what basically happened was all of our soldiers came back from the war, and they were feeling pretty good about themselves. We just, in our eyes, won World War One. So I mean, obviously they were excited. They were willing to go into the workforce again, start a career, start new jobs. Women were also empowered because they were in the workforce for the first time in World War One, and they kind of felt jobs that were originally closed off to them. They kind of felt that they can now do. So basically, after World War One, there was a big influx in the economy because Americans felt like they could produce more in the labor force. Men came back from the war, started making more money. There was much more of an interest in becoming wealthy, in spending money on consumer goods. Consumer goods at the time were becoming more widely available due to technology that had been developed before the war but were kind of becoming more affordable after the war. This included things like cars, which were pioneered. Well, cars had been around for about 20 years at this point, but Henry Ford had made his Ford Model T. The mass production of the Model T made cars more available to the general public. Things like movies were becoming more popular, radios were becoming more popular, and just sort of other consumer goods like that. So all of this kind of set the stage for the Roaring Twenties, a much stronger American economy, a much greater focus on consumerism, and because of the war, a much greater emphasis on just kind of having fun, being free, being able to kind of enjoy themselves, because we won. We had this sort of newfound American spirit, and it was time for us to party, to relax, to enjoy ourselves. And obviously there were other social factors going on in the 1920s. There was a huge wealth inequality gap. The rich were making much, much more than the poor at the time. The poor kind of typically gets historically erased from the Roaring Twenties. There's also the fact that prohibition was a thing going on. Alcohol wasn't readily available, which led to more underground parties, and as we know, obviously, from modern 21 drinking age, once you kind of restrict alcohol from the youth or just from the population in general, people are much more likely to engage in more illicit, more dangerous behavior with the drug or the substance. So that led to some pretty wild parties going on. And in general, like, social mores were loosening, people were becoming freer. Women who were liberated because they took on all of these new jobs, they took on all of these newfound social roles, were able to, they started wearing sexier clothes, they started becoming looser with men, they started becoming more open and brazen. Things like homosexuality became more open to the public as a result of just sort of this culture of people kind of feeling that they can do what they want, saying what they want. Women also earned the right to vote around this time, which helped, at least in terms of women liberating them. So yeah, all of these social factors after World War I set the stage for the Roaring Twenties.
Now that you know about what led to the Roaring Twenties, you should be able to better understand the different social roles of the time. Use this information to guide you through your web quest.